Hi everyone, Patricia Worby, Alchemy Therapies here, and welcome to my series of conversations about all things health and well-being. And today I want to welcome back my good friend Kuljit Sehmi, who is a chronic pain and trauma release practitioner, but these days she prefers to think of herself as a guide, and she was very eloquent before we started recording about why she prefers to be called a guide. Do you want to just give us a quick rundown, Kuljit, why that feels like a more appropriate term for what you do?
It really resonates so much more to me than any other term I can think of. And, I think we can split off into being practitioner and client or healer and person being healed. And I don't see that separation. So I just see myself as a guide who can light the way and help people explore the things that might help them. So that really resonates and makes it a bit more coherent for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can see it makes it more equal,
Yeah.
that you are basically not somebody who's an expert and the person who's, just taking all the information from you. It's more of a joint process, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Teamwork.
mhm.
Tag team, I call it. We're a tag team. We do it together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and more I find when I'm working with people, that's the case. I sort of they lead me where we need to go, and my job is to direct that, if you like, very subtly by just being a one step ahead and just drawing it to us.
Yeah. It
Mhm.
really leads much more flow. And I think it works I know it works much better for me that way, but I'm sure it works much better for the client because
Mm.
also they're not having to work or, it just seems to come out through their words, those things that jump out and you resonate with. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
love
well,
that.
that's beautiful. What we want to be in flow, don't we? That's exactly where we want to be, in that state of um, a parasympathetic flow state where things are not about the project or the focus of achieving a certain goal, but of actually being in a state where the goal comes to you.
Yeah,
That's how I
absolutely.
see it anyway. And
Yeah,
and that
love
segues
that.
beautifully into what I thought we might discuss today, because it seems like incongruous in some ways when you're working in the healing profession to be at all interested in a kind of finance or financial well-being or money or anything like that. Because we have a polarized society where, that's almost considered, it's not something, it's not spiritual or something, to actually be interested in how our society is organized. And I think finance is such a big part of how our society functions or doesn't function. And I know that I've been getting interested in sort of decentralized finance and the sort of whole cryptocurrency thing, and I think you were really surprised, and I was really surprised to
Yeah.
find you'd been doing the same thing. And so it felt like the perfect opportunity to have that conversation around money, the M word. How how does that kind of interface really with the kinds of way you see the world and how you operate? Do you want to sort of perhaps
Wow, that's a big question. That's a big question, Trisha. Great, let's go there. Well, since I got into my own recovery and healing and trauma release,
Mm,
what I realized more and more is everything is energy.
mm,
So, the traumas we store, the experiences we have, what happens in our body, it's all, down to the mitochondria producing energy. Everything impacts everything. And you're absolutely right. We need money to live, we need
mm,
money to survive. And what I've, really realized was that when I was ill, money was a huge stressor. I've
mm,
lost my career, I'm not earning anymore, and it led to so much more. And, with my clients, I think it's the same. It creates a huge stressor and it affects your mental, emotional, physical well being, without a doubt. Also, your spiritual well being, you being a whole person, you're meant to be happy,
mm.
So for me, money is energy. It's this is all about life flow, life force and flow, as we mentioned in the beginning.
Mm,
And when I had to do a lot of money work for my recovery actually,
mm,
because I had so many different conflicting patterns from my mum, my dad, what I grew up with, that feeling of lack. We haven't got what other people have got. Struggle, saving. My dad would just give it all away and not worry about what we needed. My mum would be scrimping and saving. So, in my own life, when I could see those patterns and look back at them, it's very confusing, you know.
mm,
I could earn money and be abundant, but it would just flow away, and I could easily spend it on others and not on myself. So it showed up in lots of physical ways, um, but it was always how I felt about it. I never really liked looking at money. Um, I think I learned that money's not a good thing because it made everyone unhappy to me in my life experience. So I wouldn't really focus on it. I wouldn't really look at it. And now, coming up to mid 50s and thinking maybe retirement, it's like, well, if I've got a plan in place, and what about all the things I want to do and how will I retire? It really got me looking more at money in a um, energetic way and how I feel about it. And I like playing and I like fun. So something new, something different. That's how I've learned and grown in my whole life, is really by trying something new and learning about it by doing it. And that's the same thing. I know you're into crypto. For me, it's more Forex because I actually did a little bit of Forex trading and did courses on it. But it's not what I actually want to do, but I have an understanding, and I can now see that I don't have to work hard for the rest of my life,
mm,
forever and ever and ever, to earn money
mm,
and survive.
mm,
Um, so I can now allow myself to play and try new things with it.
mm.
So that's how it kind of fits in my picture. I'm not sure I've answered your question,
No,
but
no, you have
um,
beautifully. I think it's playful,
yeah,
it's empowering, and it's about energy flow. And I think that's such a big factor that people think they don't really consider the relationship with money, all right? How it
yeah,
flows in your life. And it's certainly not considered, in terms of recovery. I don't know anybody that talks about, I mean, it's a question on my form, financial worries, because I know it's such a big part of a lot of people's
huge.
recovery is how they focus on the lack of or whatever money. It's such a big part of our stress, not having enough.
Yeah,
But few people really focus on the positive flow that or the relationship they can have with money,
yeah,
and how to kind of change that value system that they grew up with, which is exactly what I had. I think, yeah, we scrimped and saved. I don't think we allowed anything to flow out. I don't think so. I only remember the scrimping and saving. And so if you had said to me, complete this sentence, money is, I would have said dangerous,
yeah.
dangerous,
Scary.
scary,
Yeah,
absolutely scary. Um, you can't hold on to it because you get it and then it disappears. That was my experience. And so it wasn't until probably, well, I got a pension sorted when I was 27, but that was mostly out of fear. I can absolutely tell you, I was terrified of the idea of being penniless when I'm old.
right,
And
right.
so I signed up for a pension scheme when I was 27. And I remember the financial advisor saying to me, well, not many 27-year-olds think about their pension. I was like, no, because I'm terrified. So it wasn't a particularly positive choice.
Yeah,
Um, and like you, it wasn't till I suppose I hit my probably late 40s, early 50s, I started to think, right, how can I actually be a bit more proactive with my money flow, and think about how I'm going to make abundance in my life. And abundance isn't just about money, of course it isn't.
yeah,
It's about your joy, it's about your relationships, it's about what gives you meaning, but money's a part of that. and to ignore it and to kind of think, well, no, I'm going to be holy and spiritual and not think about money it isn't helpful. It's like trying to ignore something that's a pain in your body. It's going to come back. It's going to come back.
Absolutely. And it keeps coming back,
Yes,
doesn't
it
it? The
does.
patterns keep repeating. And I
Yes.
think, you know, we learn that you can't be spiritual and have a lot of money.
Hmm.
But then when you see it as a form of energy,
Mm,
um, just like, there's a transaction, there's a flow.
mm.
And there's got to be a balance. So when I first started doing this work, I was working for nothing.
Oh,
And there was no balance for the clients, for the
mm,
people I worked with. And in fact, some of them would say, well, I feel a bit guilty coming now, or, this doesn't quite feel right because, you're spending time and you're not taking anything for it. So
mm,
I went through all these processes of trying to see where my energetic level was with money and what I felt about it. And it's really fascinating how it does often lead to trauma
mm,
and things we can release. So, um,
mm,
yeah, I just think it's a hugely um, overlooked
mm,
area
mm,
that puts people into survival.
mhm,
I think there's a few different camps with money. There is that lack, that fear, and that puts you into survival if you look at an unconscious level, it's always there, almost like a wobbly foundation.
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and there's other people who'll be that ostrich in the sand, right?
Mm,
I can't look at it. It's too difficult, too traumatic, or too scary, and I don't know anything about it.
mm,
Um, but I think, that's just kind of going to extremes. But when you look at it,
mm,
what it gives you, what it can give you, what it gives other people, and what it can give them, it changes the
mm,
whole idea of money.
mm.
And it
It-
takes you out of survival, of making those fear-based decisions.
mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of changes the whole perspective. But I think you have to listen to those thoughts and have that awareness that, when you're spending money, does it feel like you shouldn't or you can't or it's selfish? But I think we learn, I know I did, that if you're going to be spiritual or energetic or be caring, in a caring profession even, you don't really expect to have a lot of abundance of money. It was more about you just work hard and help people.
Yeah, it's an
And
either
it
or.
wasn't about me, it was about others.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was no balance, was there? And if
No,
there's no balance, it can't flow correctly.
that's right. I mean, I can remember making that decision. I'm going to leave my regular job to go and do this full time, and I'm going to sacrifice my regular income and my nice safe pension to do what I love doing.
Yeah.
And at first it was as stark as that, because you go from a safe salary situation to self-employment, which is always a bit like, oh, will the clients come? But what I've come around to now is that actually I had to do a lot of work like you. It wasn't that I suddenly found eureka moment and was perfectly
Right.
okay with money. I really had to look at my relationship around money and what I felt about it, because it's all emotional. It's emotional like anything else. And realizing that I had this scarcity mindset, and that, yeah, like you, I was working for nothing, and then I was half price, and then it was like,
Yeah.
what does that communicate to the person you're working with? It says I don't value myself,
Yeah.
pure and
A-
simple. And we have to communicate what we're teaching. And so a lot of people are quite surprised when they hear I'm interested in. I mean, I've learned a little bit about Forex. I've certainly learned a lot about the money supply and how um, the banks work, how centralized finance works, and just blew my mind when I found
Yeah.
out how
It,
extraordinarily exploitative it is of most of us. How it concentrates money in a sort of pyramid at the top. And that's not how I want to live my life. It's not how I want to teach others to be. It's part of my uh, ethos, really, is that we're all born equal.
Yeah.
and that we need to actually take power from the few to the many and actually transform each other and our lives into something more meaningful. So it kind of made sense when I looked at it that way. And
Yeah.
it isn't about me amassing a sum and then going, oh, I'm safe now, because that's a fear-based mentality. It's about putting money to work
It is.
for
And
you, for
yeah,
your
and
client.
that's absolutely you. I think the two things that you just said was sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
because that's, I think, a lot of the mindset. And then learning that actually we're modeling. So to my children and my family, I'm modeling
Mm.
um, how we can be. So to value ourselves. And that's something I think I came to a conclusion too, that I deserve it. I deserve to be abundant, and I don't need to amass wealth, but to have money work smartly, just like the big corporations do.
Yeah.
But everyone has it equally. And I know that might be very idealistic, but they do the same things with our money, and then they take all the 99% and 99.9 and give us 0.1%. And I think that's a huge realization when you realize that when we put money in the bank or when we give it to someone to invest for us, they're taking all the cream and giving us the piddly bits.
Yep.
And I'm sorry to put it
Yeah.
that starkly,
No,
but
but that is the truth.
um, and the crumbs literally. So um, I have been thinking about passive income, but I wanted my money, whatever I'm comfortable with, to have a little play and get it to work smartly and just see how that works for me. Um, and it's not something, I still wouldn't do more than I'm comfortable with or with anything new. But I think you learn a huge amount, and you actually see things for what they might be, instead of um, just plodding along, not thinking about anything, earning a wage and not thinking about money,
Mm.
or being in survival and not being able to think about it.
Mm.
And it's so surprising. It's given me so much more freedom. So my big thing is freedom, freedom
Mm.
in my mind, freedom in my spirit, freedom in my body. Um, and just, dipping my toe in and playing, it's made money fun again. It's made money exciting. And it's given me so much more freedom about how I think about my next 10, 20 years. So um, I'm planning the things that I love to plan, and I'm giving myself the possibility of doing those things because I feel much more in charge or in control of or understanding my money now. Just like recovery in health was actually understanding myself, my needs.
Mm.
And money's been a similar kind of journey, really. It's been working in parallel.
Mm.
The
Mm.
more I've freed up my life force and my energy from those traumas and processed emotions, the more money's opened up to me and more possibilities for money as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
have done it in a fear-based mindset. I couldn't have
Well,
done it.
and so much of our training, I know we've trained in Chrysalis Effect together, but so much of that was about facing your fears, wasn't it? And not just becoming a good practitioner, but really understanding how we work as individuals, and doing that personal development as well. Uh, really looking at how we charge and all of those things is such a big
Yeah,
leap forward, isn't it? When you put yourself in front of people and say, I'm here and I know stuff. And not
yeah,
because I'm, you know, up on a pedestal, but because I've been through what you're going through,
yeah,
and I'm here, and I I have a way forward. And for me, the money space is just the same. It's like saying realign yourself with what's possible. Like you said, playing.
yeah.
I have never had so much fun as the last few months. And I'm
It's
learning,
wonderful.
and I'm making loads of mistakes. And I'm really falling
As we
flat on my,
do, and that's
yeah,
okay, isn't it?
like
That's
it's like,
okay. I think we've
what am
both
I doing?
learned that, haven't we?
So that's been extraordinary. And and there's been a lot of fear there too, rearing its head, going, "Oh, you've done that wrong, and you
Yeah.
sure, and you don't really know what you're doing here." And it's like, no, just take a break, take a breath, come back to what's working, what's working.
Yeah.
And
And how you're feeling, I think
yeah,
that's the key link, isn't it?
yeah.
And I think the other thing for me often is other people's voices. When you have those
Mm,
little doubts and little niggly thoughts or voices, what we tend to do is we tend to listen to other people's voices. And when everyone else says, no, don't do that, you kind of back off and you stay in
mm,
this kind of safe but a little bit fearful space. But I think when
mm.
we've learned to understand ourselves, I think our own voice is a bit more
Right.
stronger, and
Yeah.
we're more in tune with ourselves. So we hear that gut feeling, we feel those emotions, we feel those fears. I mean, we're human and
Mhm.
we make those mistakes. But I think what we do is we address those fears
Mm,
and then see if it's something we want to do, so that
mm,
we're not making decisions from fear, but from something that we think will be good for us, would be fun, would be exciting, would be a learning and growing experience.
mm, mm.
So I think, yeah, sacrifice is I don't deserve.
Yeah.
And we all do.
Mm.
As you said, why should those few people, those few companies, those few conglomerates, um, why
People in
should
the know.
they,
Mm.
yeah, why should they deserve and we
We don't.
don't? And we do. Every single person
Mm.
deserves abundance. And
Yeah.
just imagine a world full of abundant people and happy people.
Yeah.
Health,
Untraumatized.
everything changes.
So my final point that I wanted to make was about the quality of leadership, and how that links to trauma. Really is that there are many people who are fear based, unconsciously fear based, like I was, maybe like you were, you
Yeah.
know, thinking you're making decisions based on reality when actually you're creating this reality of overriding fear, and
Mm.
those reactive decisions that aren't actually from your heart, that they're ones that maybe you were taught, or that seem okay, but they're actually not what your body wants for you. It's kind of getting out of that space and leading by example, um, and not setting yourself, as I'm saying, that leadership doesn't have to be hierarchical. It's not about saying I'm better than you, or I'm bigger than you, or I've got a bigger pay packet, or I've got a bigger car, or it's actually saying I'm more in alignment with who I really am, and I want this for you. I want this for you. And because this is how we're designed to live, in alignment with who we really are. And who you are is different from who I am, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. We have things that we share and things that we don't.
Yeah.
Culturally, we're quite different, but we had a laugh the first time we met, and that was great. It was like I felt really, I noticed that I felt safe in your company, and it was just, um, a meeting of hearts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
do think leadership is something we need to re-examine and recreate. And that is actually, despite I don't like the title leader, I never use it for myself, but I am leading because I am, by default, really, I am following through my true values, in life. I
Mm.
am playing where I feel creative, where I feel at flow with life. And if I don't, I can stop that. I can
Yeah.
choose how I respond to things. I have a responsibility. It's wonderful. and
Yeah.
and so I am learning freedom in a new way, and I thought it was wonderful that you brought freedom in, because freedom is my top value.
Mine too. I think for so many people, when
Mm,
we've been enclosed by these and
mm,
conditioned in these rules
mm,
and the way things should be, and sometimes they don't fit us, they just don't work for us.
mm,
So yeah, freedom's been my top value,
mm,
and I think the important is it's great to know your values. Many people don't.
mm,
But many people don't put them into action. So I always, when I'm doing values, I always will say, find that one thing, something small, because that's where everything starts,
Mm,
that will help you bring your value in every single day. Because otherwise, it remains a concept, and that alignment and flow stays a little bit far away from you, a little bit distant. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, I think that is what energizes our cells.
Mm,
That's what makes us happy. And that's what our body is designed for: health,
mm,
happiness. It will draw us away from pain by showing us the pain. It won't let us off. It will say, resolve it,
mm,
because I don't want you to carry that forward. And
mm,
every person, I think, who does any of that personal development, but deeper, that inner work,
mm,
I think is a leader, because they're modeling, they're doing, they're putting it into action. And you don't need to help 100 million people and stand up if you don't want to, but you're already doing it, because by just being that, by doing that, you impact just your energy and your vibrations. I believe impact so much more. Just like that little butterfly, you might not know that subtle ripple, but I feel it just impacts so much more than we can even imagine.
mm. No, I, I don't want to even add to that because it was so beautifully put. It's just so eloquent. I don't think I could beat it. But just to say, putting it into practice is the job of healing, right? You can learn all this stuff, you can read the books, you can do the workshops, but until you actually face your fear
Yeah,
and come through it the other side and find your joy, it's very much just a concept. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They know the stuff, and it's one of the things people say to me when they come and see me is, I've done it all,
I've done
but
it.
why haven't I got well yet? And it's like,
Yeah,
how are you connecting with yourself? Is this a battle you're fighting? Is this a project you're undertaking? Or is it
yeah,
a deep willingness to be humble, to feel your feelings, however uncomfortable or unacceptable they are? That's
yeah,
the bit that we miss out. And I don't know how we got to there from money, but anyway, that's because it's a relationship, because it's a flow. And
yeah,
so I had to face my fear of money and the whole idea that the rich are bad somehow,
yeah,
and and kind of allow myself to be exactly who I am in this space, which is abundant. That's what I want to be, and that's what I'm modeling. And I'm therefore not going to stop talking about something that I think gives people abundance. And
beautiful. I love that.
and actually is available for everyone if only they are willing to play a little.
Yeah,
And that's, I think, for me has been profound, that I can play with it. And obviously we're not saying everybody's in the same space, of course they're not, and some people it might take a while. And I've lived for a large part of my early adulthood in teetering on bankruptcy for a lot of the time. So it was, I'm not saying I've always been abundant, I haven't. um, but I think we can learn to be in that space in a different way. And I just do want to say, as usual, women have a lot to give this space that they haven't been allowed to give in the past. Money has been a male thing, hasn't it?
it
And
has.
if you look at Forex trading, for instance, I mean, it's only recently that it's been opened up more and more women are getting into that. And
Yeah,
crypto has been a absolutely male dominated area up
yeah,
until about maybe a year to 2 years ago. And it's
yeah.
still vastly masculine.
Male. Yeah,
But when women come into a space, things change, and because we have a different way of inhabiting our bodies and connecting with the world. So I see it as powerfully democratic, and a spiritual quest even to change the way we are and the way we live. And so thank you so much for sharing your beautifully expressed views with me. I'm going to just ask, if people want to get hold of you, how do they do that?
they can find me on centrebalance.co.uk, my website, or they can email me at Kuljit Sehmi at centrebalance.co.uk.
Beautiful.
Nice and
Well,
easy.
excellent. Nice and easy. That's what we like. Nice and
Yep.
easy. Um,
Absolutely. My philosophy, simple,
absolutely.
easy.
And thank you so much. And obviously, people can contact me at Alchemy Therapies or Rebel Health Radio. So I'm just so excited to have done another talk with you, Kuljit. It's just such a wonder and a joy. And thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Patricia. That's wonderful.